And you're looking at the players out on loan. Dane Scarlett, man, 3 goals in his last 3 games. I don't know if you saw the finish last night, but a lot of fans were starting to write Dane off, saying, yeah, this guy's not going to make it. Are we seeing a bit of light at the end of the tunnel now with Dane Scarlett?
Again, it's very hard. I mean, when these guys are on loan, and I'll let Maka come in and take this one over that, again, we've seen players go through good periods and bad periods, and I'm at the moment kind of very reluctant to go overboard. Look, great to see him get goals, but I think we saw Troy Parrott get goals on loan, and he subsequently moved on. But Dane is a young player; he's one of our own, and Maka always kind of champions the element of having young players coming through. So, I guess it's a case of wait and see, Maka, on that. And I'll hand it over to you.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think you only have to look back for one of our greatest ever players to play the game for our football club in terms of Harry Kane and how many loans that he had to have. He didn't have one loan and then come back into the team. He had like 6 or 7, I think, off the top of my head. Sim, you probably got a date there, mate. But he went out to Leyton Orient, he went out to Leicester, wasn't he out on loan at Norwich as well? I think he went to Millwall. He went around the houses a little bit. And when he broke through at 21. We were all, again, it's interesting listening to the shows, your shows and our shows this week about kind of the Mikey Moore clamour, because it feels the same. I'm not putting Mikey Moore in the same bracket as Kane because he's 4 years younger than his breakthrough season, but Mikey Moore, we're wanting him to see him in the squad for the Europa League games. And I remember when Kane started to break through, was it Sherwood that originally gave him his debut? I think it might have been Sherwood before Poch. I might be wrong on that. But when Kane starts breaking into the team, he was playing Europa League, and we were all clambering, weren't we? Going, get him in the league side, get him in the league side. And it was waiting. And then all of a sudden he got unleashed, scored, and he never looked back. And maybe we're hoping that with a little bit of Mikey Moore. But I think the likes of Dane Scarlett, they need to go and apply their trade. Most of the time, lads, viewers and listeners, it's about playing games, isn't it? It's about playing games, and he needs to be able to play. Some of the loan moves that we've had in the past have been terrible loan moves. Look at, for example, Elio Valise last season. He went on loan. He didn't. It was a political move and all that. So there's a lot involved in getting the loan moves right. But look, for Dane, happy days, mate. He's scoring down my local club, actually, Oxford United. I live in Oxfordshire, so down the road. Good old Dane, get down and start watching him bang some balls in the back of the net.
It's a good. Well, even this loan move, it didn't look like at the start. Well, mate, I mean, it's still early days, but for a lot of the season, Dane has been on the bench and not been playing a lot. Only in the last few weeks has he been getting a bit of sub appearances and getting on the pitch. And obviously,
it was his first start last night, wasn't it?
Was his first start last night. Obviously, he came off the bench last weekend, got a goal, and then he got a 90th minute equaliser, which obviously. Always, when you do that, get a late goal like that, that's always going to make the fans happy. And then obviously off the back of that, got a start and took full advantage of it. So maybe this is the springboard he needed. But yeah, I think Mac is absolutely right. Loan moves are very hard to get right sometimes, and it's all about timing of the move. Sometimes you have to find the right club, play the right football to show exactly what you can do. And look, hopefully this one's working out. But, you wouldn't have said, if I asked you 2 weeks ago if it was working out, you would have said no. But at the moment, he's got 3 and 3. I mean, that's including internationals. So let's hope he can really springboard this. Because look, he's still, 9? He's still 20, is he?
Yeah.
Scarlett? He's still young. He's still a really young striker. And to score goals in the championship at that age is still impressive. So the more he gets then, the more experience he gets, it's going to be, the better it is for us. Unfortunately for him, obviously Solanke's in now. Lankshire's getting some minutes at the moment for Spurs. Obviously with Charleston still here, and he's a £60 million signing. So he does have a lot of competition if he was to come back at Tottenham. So he's really going to have to be impressive on this loan spell if he's going to come back at Spurs and fight for a first team spot.
Yeah, but I think it shows to his mentality, because last year was dreadful for him. It must have beat him up a lot, being at Ipswich, not getting any starts throughout the season unless it was in the cups or whatever. And then start of this season, Oxford, it's just seemed like the same old story. He goes on loan, he's got a striker or header in that's banging in the goals, and he stayed patient, He's kept working hard. He came on last week and got that goal, scored for the under-21s as well during the week in the international break, and now he's got his first start and got his goal as well. So long may it continue, Dane. I really hope that he can just go from strength to strength now, because he's really grabbed that opportunity that he's been given from Oxford now, and it's something that you couldn't say on his loan spell last year, because even when he was coming on, he was getting a few minutes here, a few minutes there, didn't really get many goals behind him. So hopefully this can be maybe a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for Dane, is what I would say. But by the end of this season, he'll be 21. I mean, he's really coming to that age now where he needs to, be settled at a club, I think.
I mean, 21's when Kane started breaking into the team. Go on, Ricky.
Just about that, guys. I think, we've seen obviously earlier this week these reports around Dragushin and the fact that his agent is now coming out and spouting again, which again seems to be a serial waffler every 2 to 3 months when he's having a bit of a chat. I just think, look, why can't someone like that, just for that kind of process you've mentioned there, Ben, get your head down and be working? I think with Dragushin, I probably would expect him to come into the lineup on Thursday. And, he just needs a good run of performances now. I know it is difficult for a player that, to be fair to him, hasn't had a consistent run of games, really, if we're going to be honest about it, since his move. I mean, you can put that down to the fact you've got Romero as vice-captain there, and also Mickey van der Ven. I think we all agree probably one of the best defenders, not only in the Premier League, but in world football. So it is hard to break into that. But Dragushin really now needs to get his head down, take the opportunities when they come. I would be surprised if he doesn't start against, of course, AZ on Thursday, because you're looking to think, well, where's he going to get game time then, really? Palace, you got Man City to come in the Carabao Cup. We all know how important that game is for all of us. So I think Dragushin just needs to get back to playing some football and have a good couple of performances, obviously, on the back of that recent sending off against Karabag. But it does concern me you've got an agent there that is continually, every 2-3 months, opening his mouth when, to be honest with you, the player at the moment, with no disrespect, we haven't seen really what he's capable of. And that, again, is a combination of lack of game time, but also when he has played, I think there has been some moments of concern in there.
You got a feel for Dragushin, though, don't you? Because when he came into the club, we really needed that centre-back. Van der Ven was injured, Romero was injured, and we were playing Emerson and Ben Davies at centre-back. And then as soon as he comes through the door, these guys are back fit and they're playing again, and then the game time is limited. And when he has got on the pitch this year, against Coventry, wasn't great. Against Karabag, obviously gets sent off after 7 minutes. And it's just been very stop-start for him. So you got a feel for it. But I feel like, apart from those 2 games, for the most part, whenever he's played, I think he's done himself a service. I think he's been really good. But the problem he has is he's got 2 top defenders ahead of him in the pecking order. So can you see him, like, for a defender of his quality, ever making a name for himself at Tottenham if he's got Romero and Van der Ven ahead of him in the pecking order? Because he needs a run of games. That's what he needs.
Yeah, I'll let Macca take that one. That's interesting, that point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's exactly the same scenario as what we was just talking about with Dane Scarlett, really, to a certain degree. These guys need games. When you put age context around it, I mean, 20 years old for a footballer, it's a young person's game, let's be fair, nowadays, and a career isn't as long as, other industries or other opportunities out there. But if you're at the top of the mountain when you're 22, the only way is down. So, you probably don't want to be at the top of the mountain at 22. You want to be at the top of the mountain at the peak of your power. So 20 years old is still young for a footballer, even though it's a young person's game. And Dragushin's 21. So, he's already made it to a big club. We're a massive, massive football club. And he's got to take his chances. So, and he didn't. Let's just have it totally out and see it. He didn't. He had a chance, and he got sent off within 7 minutes. And actually, if he hadn't got sent off in 7 minutes, he'd have played 95 minutes. That's 88 more minutes he would have had under his belt. He wouldn't have been banned for the game after that, which he would have played. It's another 90 minutes under his belt. So, and we're all of a sudden we're now talking about a completely different scenario. I totally expect him to start 100% tomorrow night. And for him to start to really prove it, but he's 21, team. At the end of the day, like,
absolutely right.
He's if you look at Mickey van der Ven, going back to Dane Scarlett, and actually the age profile that about here, Mickey van der Ven, we all love him. We think he's amazing. He's 22. When he was 20, he was rising through the lower ranks, if you were, of like German football, Dutch football, which is what Dane's doing at 20. So there's plenty of time for these lads, for these players to develop, as long as they're given the right opportunities and the right chance. I think with Dragushin, people call me a serial waffler, Ricky. So I don't know what you're saying about his agent. Do you know what I mean? Being a serial waffler.
I thought I'd leave that back. I thought I'd leave that bit out, Macca. Keep it kind.
I know. But yeah, I mean, he does like to talk clearly, and I'm sure at some point there will be another big payday for his agent, and that might be a contract extension. But for Radu now, it's down to him, isn't it? He's got to be able to get in the team. And yes, Romero's amazing, and yes, Mickey van der Ven, we know that they've got injury problems in them with the hamstrings. Touch wood that doesn't happen, or the sending offs or whatever. And when them opportunities come, Radu's got to take them. And at the moment, they're coming in the shape of the Europa League, and he has to take them chances. And if he plays really well tomorrow, if he starts and plays really well and defends brilliantly, and and we're all coming off thinking, wow, that was an amazing performance by Radu, then he starts thinking about, actually, can we freshen up the Palace game? Does he then start against Man City in the Carabao Cup? And that's a big test for him. And then he's brilliant against Man City. Now all of a sudden you're going, hang on, maybe this guy is a Premier League player, and maybe we switch it up a bit. Do you know what I mean? So what I love about this whole conversation, really, and this is the optimism in me coming out, is that we wasn't talking about our defensive backline like this last season before, whatever, with the Eric Dyer still in there, and the Davinson Sanchez's and all that sort of stuff. We were dreading them coming on, but we're actually excited to see Radu. Would that be fair, lads?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see Radu. But if you look at it from Radu's point of view, and you're 100% right, his age, he's very young players, particularly for a defender coming into this league. But before he joined Spurs, he had Bayern Munich after him. He was probably one of the most top performing players in defenders in Serie A at the time, playing week in, week out, and very highly rated. Bayern Munich end up going for Eric Dyer because they couldn't get Radu over the line, right? Radu chose us over Bayern Munich. Do you think he's replaying in his mind, well, if I would have chose Bayern Munich, I would have been starting week in, week out, because Eric Dyer was starting week in, week out?
Yeah, but would he now? You got Upamecano, you got Kim Min-jae.
Depends how he performed last year.
Yeah, potentially. I guess he would have got more of an opportunity maybe last year, but I don't know. You make your decision at the time based on sound logic, and I think he's probably looking at Bayern's team now, who they got Kompany in charge. They've got two very good centre-backs there right now who are more experienced than him and international pedigree, and who signed for big money as well. So I don't know, if he looks at Bayern now and thinks, I would be playing right now week in, week out if I was there.
Well, he would have definitely got a lot more minutes last season, I reckon.
Yeah,
last season,
Just adding that, boys, if I can. This is not to bring the show onto a negative or a downer. We do know, obviously, we've got this situation around Romero's contract that hasn't yet shown any progression so far. So obviously the situation we've got with that is that if we do move into that period where at the end of this season nothing is agreed, I think Spurs are in a situation where they're going to have to make a call on that with Romero. And look, he has made a number of high-profile errors this season. We can't get away from that. And I'm sure he's as frustrated as anybody that he has made those errors. But you can see how much Ange's very much vehement in the case that Romero is the guy that he wants to kind of lead by example, follow that real kind of standards in terms of effort and commitment. So I think, look, you have to have one eye on that. That Dragoshin, to be fair, probably has been brought in. I'm not saying by the fact they didn't think Romero was going to sign a contract, but everything at the moment doesn't seem to indicate that Romero is keen to agree new terms. And I know there's been fans that feel that maybe his head has already been away because of the nature of the high-profile mistakes. So football can change very quickly. Suddenly in 12 months from now, we could be having a partnership of Van der Ven and Dragoshin. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'd love Romero to commit to the club despite the number of high-profile errors that he's made this season. But it is worrying that that contract situation hasn't been resolved. And ironically, I look back at a few years ago, if you guys remember, when we had that situation around Ericsson, Alderweireld, Rose at the time, we had players going into their final 18 months of the contract, which is a problem for the club if we can't get this sorted. So I think keep one eye on that, because that is going to be an interesting one, how that plays out between now and the end of the season.
Can I just add to that? Oh, sorry, Ben. Sorry, is that right to just add into that? I mean,
go for it.
I see it slightly differently. I hear what you're saying, and the crux of what you're saying is the reality of the situation is if Real Madrid come calling, he probably goes, right? So, that's the reality, signing a new contract or not. And actually, I do like the way that the club, by hook or by crook, have got a good quality, top quality, as you just said, Ben, defender in Dragoshin to be able to step into that. I think it's how we manage that whole situation. I just see it slightly differently, that the club is in a very different position than when it was when Alderweireld's contract was up, when Jan's contract was up, when Rose's contract was very different. We'd already gone through. We're actually at that point. We was in the Arsenal scenario that are in now, whereby they've been pushing and haven't got over the line for 4 or 5 years, and they're, you know, that. Football goes in cycles, right? It might be a 7-year cycle, it might be a 5-year cycle, but it might be less than that, right? But at the end of the day, it's a cycle. We're at the beginning of ours. And actually, Romero's been at the club whilst we've changed, so his cycles are a little bit longer for him. But our actual cycle under Ange and under this new project, this attacking football, this building is still very, very new. So I think we're at different, and that's the only thing I would say on that. Look, that's not going to prevent Romero wanted to go Real Madrid if Real Madrid come calling. And let's not forget as well, he was a highest scoring centre-back in the Premier League last year, so he might have made some mistakes this year, but he's also scored 5 goals last year as well. I think he's also scored 1 this year, I think from memory, with his head was against Everton as well. So I think you are right, Bud. I do agree that he is Ange's man. But again, you know, I just take it up a little bit. When agents like Radu's coming out, we need more game time. Well, it's up to him to get the game time.
Yeah.
It's up to these players. Madison sitting on the bench, people making a big thing about it. He should be moody. He should be moody sitting on the bench because he wants to be playing, and rightly so. It's not about sulking and wanting to move. Like Romero, I want to win stuff. Great, win Tottenham then. Like, because that's what you're here for, right? You've got the players around, you've got the manager, or apparently, so for some people, you've got the tools around you to win. So let's go win, Romero. Part of that winning is your responsibility, isn't it? Especially as a vice captain. So, you know, I do get a bit sick of hearing these stories about players going, "Well, I want to win, so I'm going to leave." Well, win with us.
Yeah, I don't sort of follow up on Lee's point if I can there, guys. I think that's really interesting about how Ange handles that with Madders and Kulusevski, because I think we're in a situation now where, with no disrespect, there won't be times you can play them both. I know that you can always play, you know, both of them together. So it will be a case that we're now going to see how Ange does handle that man management piece when it comes to massaging the ego of Maddison to some degree, because like Lee says there, he's a vice captain of the club. He cares, he's passionate, he wants to play, and Lee's right, you know. If he wasn't sulking, I think, well, why is he not sulking? He wants to play football. He wants to be part of the squad. And it'll be intriguing to see how Ange does deal with that, because I think at the moment, you boys have touched upon it recently, Kulusevski's playing in a way which he is seemingly undroppable. And I think you mentioned it, Ben, on a previous show, a ball retention wizard he is. He's that good where, quite simply, the ball sticks to him. And I hate making comparisons like this reluctantly, but he's almost becoming that player like Moussa Dembele was for us, where he's quite simply won
with
the
end
first
product.
Yeah, with end product. So look, if Kulusevski continues the trajectory he's on, he's going to be phenomenal for us this season, have an incredible season. So I'm intrigued to see how Ange does manage that with Maddison, because he's a player that he's used to playing. He's not a player that's not used to playing. So it'll be intriguing to see how he does manage this next set of games, which, to be fair, as I always say to you boys, you know, what we've got coming up in terms of Carabao Cup, Europa and Premier League, we're coming into, we've got to be honest now, the kind of, not the business stage of the season, but a critical point where it kind of shapes what the second half of the season looks like for sure. October, November, December gives you a fair idea of where you're going to be around realistically, table-wise, and what you're planning for in the second half of the season. And Andrew's got to manage that right when it comes to Maddison and Kulusevski, because individually, they're both great players. Can they work together? I'm not sure if they can every week. But the great thing is we've touched upon here is there's options now. There is Sarr playing well. There is Basuma playing well. You've got Bentancur, who's going to probably become Tottenham's Thursday night man once we get this ban that comes through. So again, it's just about managing that squad. And I think back to what Lee said earlier, I think Lee said this on a number of shows, that I don't think there is any more such a thing as a first 11. It is a squad game. So it'll be intriguing to see how they manage the team for sure.
I can't remember the last time where we've had so many options in different areas of the pitch. When you have someone of Dragoshin's level to step in for the defence, you've got someone of Bentancur and Basuma's level to step in the number 6. You've got someone of Pape Matasar's level to step in into the number 8. You've got like someone of Richarlison's level to step into the number 9. You've got Wilson Odobert there. Like, when's the last time we've had this much top quality cover? Even in the Pochettino era, when we were like fighting for titles, we never had this.
Oh, that's the credit to the recruitment and credit to what Ange is building. And I think, yes, we're in an exciting moment. I think, in my opinion, I think we're playing well. Young squad. I think the squad as well. They've really built this squad to try and last the season in Europe and Premier League as well, getting these young players. What I like about what they've done in Europe is, as we've said before, like previously in Europe, we've had maybe the B team out there where it's like, players who know are not going to play in the Premier League on the weekend. But this year, we've got young, hungry players who are looking to prove themselves.
Do you think Dragoshin feels like that, though?
Yeah, why not? Because no.
You don't think so?
Why, he should be young and hungry. Yes, he was playing well for Genoa, but you got to remember, he's so young. He's still at the start of his career. Like, where was he before Genoa? He was only at Genoa for like a year.
He was at Juventus, yeah.
He was at Juventus for a bit, fair enough. So he's already been at a big club, but he's still so young. Like, I still think he's hungry to get on that pitch and show what he can do. Similar to Bergvall, similar to Gray, like these Odebear.
No, but what I'm saying is like the players of the B team knew, however well they played in that Europa League game, they wouldn't be playing in the Premier League team the week after. Do you think Dragoshin feels like that?
Maybe, and that, I mean, at the moment that is the case because we just got two very good defenders there at the moment. Albeit Romero's made some mistakes, but he's made mistakes. On Saturday, he was absolutely brilliant. Like when he's good, he's just incredible, and most of the time he is pretty good. Albeit those mistakes have cost us this season, but I don't think I think to Lee's point when he's come in. Like, he hasn't exactly impressed. Coventry away, he was pretty poor. When we played Karabag, he got sent off. And let's be honest, that sending off was pretty much mostly down to him. Like a bad mistake from him. He let himself get caught on the ball, and then he dragged down the forward through on goal. So he really only has himself to blame for most of that goal, for most of that sending off. So as much as he can point to, oh, look, maybe I should be playing because Romero's making a mistake. When you've come in, you've not really done well. So I thought Newcastle away he was pretty good. But other than that, he hasn't done his bit. And you have to do your bit if you want to prove that you got to get a chance. So
same for the players now, Sid. We're at a point now. Same for the players.
Yeah, I just want to quickly just read what the actual quote from his agent, which he said. He said, "Right now, we are not interested in approaches from other clubs, and I don't think Tottenham want to let him go either." So he's pretty clear about his future right now.
Yeah. And that's the right stance to have. I've had a lot of problems with Dragoshin's agent and the way he's been piping up over the past, but this is probably the one quote which I think is good for him to say, because there's been a lot of talk about his future over the past week, and he's come out and he's poured cold water over it. So that's credit to him.
Yeah, but again, he's only been here for a short amount of time. I mean, it's crazy we're having this discussion, but I mean, this is the world of Tottenham. I mean, I just go back to what we said, boys, earlier, that these next these next few months, as we know, this is what will set the tone for the rest of the season. And I'm sorry, I don't want to come across sensationalised when I say that, but we know with results, as Macca will know, it's a week-to-week situation that we're on. I know it's again when you look at the case that we've got two teams coming up here that I don't want to see Dr. Tottenham for. AZ winless in 4, Palace winless in 8. I mean, look, let's be honest about it. We should be going into that Carabao Cup game against Man City with 3 on the bounce. We should be. Let's be honest about it. Anything beyond that will be a disappointment. But Spurs have to go and do the job now, and it's where you remove that tag that we all hate to say, and I don't even want to say the name or what it's always referenced as, that if we do our job against AZ, do our job against Palace, we set up ourselves in a really good position for that Carabao Cup tie against Man City, which you boys probably already know that it's I'm already counting down the hours and the days and the minutes to it, because I don't.
One game at a time, Ricky. One game at a time.
I know. It's already. I feel like it's my cup final already next week. It's sad. I think this is so important to us, the cup competitions, Macca.
The thing is that one game at a time piece, Ben, that you talk about. I mean, it's so true. It's so. Everything's so analysed, including myself, like the blue book and everything, and seeing the data and everything that we all do on all of our shows, and we love it, and that's why we do it. But the reality is that we, as a fan, you go to the stadium against West Ham, you batter them, seeing West Ham get battered everywhere they go, and you enjoy it. And then now you go to the stadium and you hopefully enjoy a nice win against AZ Alkmaar. But the expectations are building again, aren't they? And what comes with expectation is extra pressure or extra anxiety or extra disappointment when it doesn't happen. Let's have it. It's the way I see it. We should be beating AZ Alkmaar tomorrow evening. But if we don't, it's not a disaster. It shouldn't all of a sudden be an absolute disaster, because we're still going to qualify. The Europa League new format just literally gives us. I mean, if we beat AZ Alkmaar, I think we're virtually qualified already.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's the expectation about we should be going to batter them 8-0 or whatever it might be, and we only win 2-0. That can't be a disappointment. We're putting that own disappointment on ourselves. You know what I mean? By expecting to go and smash them 8-0. The Palace one is an interesting one, because notoriously after games in Europe, we've struggled, and the high intensity press that we now play under Ange Postecoglou, you could argue that maybe that helped us or hindered us against Brighton. We were brilliant in the first half and not so good in the second half. I personally think we thought the game was done as players. We thought the game was done, and we switched off for 20 minutes and got punished. That's what I actually think, but we never know. But maybe it was fatigue, and maybe it was the 5 wins on the bounce and going away and Farron Frosh and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, but you know, for us to, just because Crystal Palace haven't won a game all season, it don't mean to say that we're going to go to Selhurst Park and bowl them over. It doesn't work like that, and therefore expectations. Like, this is coming from Mr. Optimistic, right? You know, I'm Mr. Optimistic. I think we're going to win every week, but it doesn't mean to say that, you know, if we don't beat Palace, that we're gonna capitulate against Man City in the cup. And it also doesn't mean that we're not going to get top 4 or top 3. It also doesn't mean that Ange should be out, and it also doesn't mean that we're going to win the league if we beat them 3-0. You know, you don't get more points, do you, for winning 4-0 or 1-0? So I think it just needs to be a bit of context in there. I do agree with what you're saying, though, Rick. Like, we should be, on paper or whatever you want to say, beating these two teams ahead of us. But we've also realised that, 1, football don't work like that, and 2, Spurs definitely don't like that. So, do you know what I mean? It's like, you just got to take it with a pinch of salt, one game at a time. Let's go. Let's enjoy this time at the stadium with AZ Alkmaar. Get some goals, hopefully, have a nice win, get some good performances from the likes of Mikey Moore, Werner scoring one. You know, we want to build this up. This is the first part of the season. This isn't the end part of the season. And now everyone told me last year, when I was asking everyone on our show, Rick, could we? League last year, everyone telling me, don't be stupid, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Well, the same applies, right?
Yeah.
It's irrelevant if we're 7th right now or if we're top of the league. It's irrelevant. What's relevant is, are we playing well? Are we consistently playing well? Is the data showing us that we're doing different things? Have we improved against the fixtures that we played before? And the answer,
we are. We're 3 points up, aren't we? We're 3 points up on the respective fixtures.
Yes. So we're all moving in the right direction, and we should be happy by this. I'm not telling you how to feel, anyone, but we should be happy by this. You know, this over analytics of, well, Romero, he hasn't played a perfect game. Well, how many 10s have you given out, Sim, Ben? I know you've given that.
I've given quite a few. Kulusevski probably every week. Van der Ven every other week. So,
So the point is, you know, we're not giving 10s out every single week to every single player, because that's unrealistic.
Just Decky.
Just Decky at the moment, who is at the moment undroppable. And here's the thing, though, lads. Let's remember this conversation. Bookmark it, as the young dynamic people say on social media. The reality is, when he has a bad game, which is inevitable because he's going to, what do? Do we drop him? Is Maddison back in? Do we overanalyze it again? Or is it just saying, you know what, he's had a bad day?
Yeah.
So that was a long way of saying, Ricky, just calm down. Calm down.
Me and Matt go back a decade now. God, I mean, look how many grey hairs I've got from it. I tell you.
I tell you what, though, if we do go and beat Alkmaar and Palace over the next week, where, you know, you should really expect us to do so, I think that'll be 8 wins in our last 9 games.
Yeah,
which is mad form.
It is. No, it is good form. But I mean, the thing is, Ben, with no disrespect, we know with Spurs, I mean, it's a case of, I know Macamana like this, but it's a case when, as we know, it's the wins that, with no disrespect, that we go into games that we feel like, you know, these are the games that we really, really do need to show up for. The likes of, like I said to you, what did I say to you a few weeks ago when we was on here after United? I said to you guys, I don't want to see Spurs go and follow that up with a really good performance against Brighton and not let it be a one-off. We said this last season after the win against Villa, and we came crumbling down a week later after Fulham. That, I know, again, as Macca says, it's the involvement of a journey of a young side, but you do need to see that consistency over a period to get the fans really trusting behind the process. And there will be bumps in the road. We're not going to win every single week. But all I ask for from the team is to give absolutely everything. And, you know, we had that period again, when we'll say a few years ago under Maurizio, where I don't think it was a question of effort and commitment when we had that great period under him. I think it's just trying to get to that point. And Ange, like I say, the stats are there and they're bearing fruit. if you look at the respective 8 games of last season, we have improved our points tally. We've improved the goals scored. I know we've conceded one more, but everything is up in terms of the data, which does suggest patterns of play show you we are improving. But you boys know what it's like. There's big games to come. And for fans, we all get excited by the big games that are on the calendar, the likes of course, the City game next week, which I think I've mentioned for the 15th time already, boys. Forgive me for it. But as we know, look, football, as we know, is dictated by results. We hate to say that, but you boys know that with social media and the way the world works now, if everybody had Lee's peace of mind, it'll be a calmer, peaceful place. But unfortunately, the way the world works is we all want instantaneous results now. We all want to see us win now. And processes and journeys don't always seem to work like that. So it's always going to be ups and downs, boys. Always be ups and downs.
Yeah, you say processes don't usually work like that, but I think you are seeing a process at Tottenham. You're seeing Spurs at the top of the league for all the data that we want to be right now, pressing, XG, touches in the opposition box, all this kind of stuff. You're looking at the games that we lost last year and quite heavily, Newcastle away, Brighton away. You're seeing a lot better performance. Yeah, I know we threw it away in the second half against Bournemouth, but we were brilliant in the first half. Against Newcastle, we played well. We should have won the game as well. Against Arsenal, I think it was a better performance than we showed last year as well. So you are seeing quite a high progression in the team this season. And not only that, but you're seeing progression within the squad building as well. So I think everything is going in the right direction. And like Ricky said, there's going to be bumps in the road. We've shown that this season. But as long as we just stay calm and stick with the process, I really believe Ange is the right man to take us forward. And we are going to get there in the end.